Hey guys, we're going to be doing a Roy Lichtenstein inspired piece of art today. So it's going to look something like this, and we're going to either be using primary colors, which again are red, yellow, and blue, or secondary colors, which are green, purple, and orange. So today you're going to need some newspaper, some plain paper, and some scissors and some glue. If you don't have a glue stick, then regular glue is also fine, and a piece of scrap paper that you can glue on top of. So when we're talking about Roy Lichtenstein, we're talking about things that looked like they were printed. He did lots of comic book style things, and he used lots of dots in his. So we have the aspect of dots, and for it to look printed, well, we're not a printing machine, so we're using something that was printed, which is your newspaper in the background. So we're going to take all these different pieces of newspaper and glue them down. Now, I can't emphasize enough to you the importance of how well you glue your piece down, because that's going to make a huge difference on whether it's going to be easy for you to draw on or not so easy. And I'll show you, the steps to that as well. All right, so first things first, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna get our newspaper. Now there's a few things about the newspaper that you have to understand. You can't use pictures, you can't use anything that's a bold text, you can't use anything that's like a weird text like this one, how it's different from the rest. You're wanting to use all of these extra pieces that are everywhere else, their main way of printing, okay? When you open up a newspaper, there's a lot more print on the inside than there is on the front cover. So I'm gonna open mine up, and I'm just gonna grab this first piece, and I'm gonna just kind of move it off to the rest of it. Now, the other thing to realize is sometimes when you go and you cut yours, if you look at one side and the other side is crazy, you're gonna always put your glue on the crazy side, okay? Because we wanna make sure that we see this side. So when you cut this, you also want to keep the least amount of white that you can. So I'm gonna start off by just like, this is a really big section, it's awesome. I'm gonna cut this piece out like this, and I'm just gonna tear it at that edge. And then I'm gonna go back through here, and I'm gonna go ahead and cut this up too. Now I'm just gonna cut right in between these two columns, okay? And I don't need to keep cutting up because I'm not going to use any of that. And I'm going to cut off this bold, it's not bold, it's all caps text of Washington. And then I have a whole bunch of extra on this side. I'm going to go ahead and chop this off too. So I'm going to trim this piece up. Now here's one piece. This is kind of a big piece. I am going to cut it in half so I have a little bit smaller pieces. And I'm just going to make a stack. And then I'm going to go to the next column, and I'm going to just repeat this until I have this whole little section cut up. All right, so I have my pile of newspaper I cut, my scrap paper, and then my real actual sheet of paper. Now, if you have like lined paper or something like that, that's fine. You can just work on top of it. So I want to show you, and this is gonna be hard to see because it's not a purple glue stick, but when you take your piece, you can look at both sides. I still want to use this side. I'm gonna glue all the way around the edges. That's really important, okay? And then I'm going to stick it on this paper. Now, you don't want them to all be the same direction, so I'm gonna start in the corner like this, and I went over, so I'm just gonna actually fold that over. You can also trim it, but I find folding it to be much, much easier, right? And then I'm gonna grab my next piece, and again, I'm gonna go around the edge, and then I'm going to put this one a different direction. And that's gonna be really important with this. I'm gonna line it up on the edge, is making sure that you have them all kind of every which way, and you have different sizes. And you're just gonna keep layering this newspaper all over this piece until it's completely covered, okay? Now, again, it's gonna be a little time consuming, but the end result is always worth it. Okay, now, one quick thing is, like, if you have a small piece like this and you're like, man, I don't wanna waste that whole thing, you can see if you have a smaller piece, which I do, and I'm gonna use this one instead, so I don't, overlap too much that I'm just kind of wasting my time, okay? What you also don't want to do is have like weird triangle pieces. Some kids have done that in the past, and they end up being really noticeable for some strange reason. So try to keep, you know, squares, rectangles going on. Okay. So like I said, you're going to go ahead and cover this whole page with newspaper. Okay. All right, so a few things that I didn't mention earlier is when you're working with glue, this paper is gonna get really sticky, so you're gonna wanna, you know, open it up and move it around and refold it different ways. Or if it gets really, really gross, to go ahead and just, you know, throw it out and get a new sheet. The other thing is that your hands are going to become black and sticky. So when that happens, you know, pause and go wash your hands also, because you're just going to keep smearing things all over. So newspaper, ink smears. You also really want to try to keep glue off the tops of these, because when you go later on to color on with marker, if they're covered in glue, it's not going to stick and color on top of it properly. So those are just a few different tips and tricks that you guys need to be aware of. I am going to go ahead and continue filling this out, but I don't feel like you need to watch me do that. So that's it for this particular chunk of the video.